Hello, welcome to my channel, another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and this is Sunday morning, April 7th, the beginning of a new reading week. What are my plans? Continuing on with Les Miserables and reading a physical copy of a BookTube prize book in fiction. I will mention that later, probably after the BookTube prize judging has been done. I have finished reading She by H. Rider Haggard, originally published in 1886 or 1887, somewhere in that neighborhood. It is an adventure story, and it is told in a fictional guise as a memoir, where a man has received a memoir from somewhere else about these fabulous adventures this man had. And the author, or the person who received the manuscript, is only the editor. It's an old fiction for a lot of these adventure stories. And it's really kind of interesting because you're reading it through and put footnotes in where the narrator says something in the story and the editor thinks it needs just a little more explaining. Of course, it's all a ruse just done by the author to make you think it's a memoir. Well, anyway, there is the narrator of the story who has a very good friend who married and had a child, and the wife died immediately after childbirth. And this man, a friend of the narrator, was so distraught, he sent away his child to be raised sort of like in boarding schools. And this the friend of the narrator knows he's going to die pretty soon. So he enlists the narrator to take care of his son and give him his vast fortune when he reaches the age of 25. And from there, you learn that the man who had the son can trace his heritage back to the ancient Egypt, the pharaohs. And when this boy becomes 25, he inherits the man's sort of private documents and learns that there's supposed to be this civilization run by a mysterious woman somewhere out in Africa. And no one has ever seen this civilization before. So of course the young man, Leo, and the narrator, Holly, want to go out to Africa and find this place. And they bring along their servant, Job. And then the adventure goes on where they meet these people and they speak Arabic. Kind of strange for Africa, but not too strange. And from there they meet She, who must be obeyed, a very ancient and powerful woman. And I will leave it at that for the story. Some of the story is a little problematic by today's standards. Holly and Leo and Job hire a local man, an Arab named Muhammad. And one of the comments in the text is that all the Englishmen are having trouble being bitten by mosquitoes. However, mosquitoes will not bite the truly faithful, otherwise Islamic men. Yeah, that doesn't fly in today's world, but it's kind of amusing to read about these old thoughts that people had and what they got away with. Well, anyway, She's a pretty good book. I enjoy it as an adventure story. I started reading it on Kindle, but I switched to audiobook about 65% of the way through because I had another book I wanted to read on audiobook and it just was not working as an audiobook. So I sort of flipped. I got the audiobook of She and the book I was going to listen to audio. I got that in print. Well, anyway, that's too much information for that. She is a pretty good book and I highly recommend it. Also, I hope my voice can be heard over these rapids. I'm out for my morning walk, and I just thought it'd be interesting that have a little bit of a different background for this review. I have finished reading a book for the BookTube Prize fiction category. That is Blackouts by Jutin Torres. I was going to listen to the audiobook. I got the audiobook downloaded to my Libby app, and the first thing that came on was the author sort of making excuses for the audiobook, saying that there are some things in the text that cannot be reproduced on audio. And that essentially was the text in the book, that some of the text is blacked out. You can see it right there. And the blackout is a text that the characters are reading, and someone has gone in and blacked out some of the text. So apparently in the audiobook, you have two narrators, one for each of the main male characters, which is a fine way to do an audiobook, especially when it's narrated from a first person. But these blackout texts are narrated by the author, and he says you'll just have to imagine, like between the pauses of speaking, in some cases, that there's a blackout text between. So I decided not to listen to the audiobook, and fortunately my library system did have the hardcover available, and that's how I read this book. And again, I showed you those blackout texts. Also included in this paperback or hardcover are pictures that accompany the text, which of course would not be reproduced in audio. And something really odd, I don't know if you can see it very well in a video, but in most books, the text is used in black ink. And in here, the text is a brown ink, sort of like it's a very old text. And that's all I'm going to say, is that the design of the hardcover is rather unique. And the audiobook version, although I did not listen to it, may not be appropriate for this book.
Cat in a box. Aren't you a cute kitty in a box? Yes, you are.
I finished listening to the audiobook of King Kong, based on the 1933 movie. The book was written by Delos W. Lovelace from a story by Edgar Wallace. Edgar Wallace is very famous, known as a mystery writer, and he admits that he really just contributed a few story ideas. And the novelization is okay. It's never going to come down as a great piece of literature. But as a story to be entertaining, it really fit the bill. It was only about 6 hours long on audio, so a very succinct novelization. As I remember, it follows the movie pretty well. It's been a few decades since I've seen the original King Kong movie. But as I said, it was a fun little novelization. It's currently free on audio for Audible members. I believe there are some ebooks available and maybe even some paperbacks available. What's really interesting about the audiobook, it was narrated by Stephen Wernicke, who is really one of the best audiobook narrators out there. He helped produce this recording, and he gathered together some giants of science fiction to discuss King Kong at the end of this audiobook. They had Ray Harryhausen. He is most famously known for his stop motion animation. He did not work on the stop motion animation for King Kong, but he did work under the man who did that. So he's a little bit of heritage. And Harryhausen, of course, loves stop motion animation. He says, while it may not be technically as realistic as some of the modern CGI, and this is back in 2006 when it was recorded, somewhere around there. He says, it has a spirit and a liveliness that the modern day CGI doesn't have. CGI, he says, is sort of static and stale. It may look real, but it has no real life to it. And then it had Harlan Ellison. Harlan Ellison was a big King Kong fan. He said that he has a plaque in his house that said, King Kong died for our sins. And I think that's true. This King Kong is really a tragic story of a filmmaker who wants to just make, a big epic movie back in 1930s, discovers a giant ape and other creatures on this island, basically assaults the ape, King Kong did kidnap a beautiful blonde, but he was assaulted by the movie makers, imprisoned, dragged off to New York City in chains. And you wonder why a giant ape would go apeshit after that. And so he feels a lot of sympathy for King Kong. And so do I. Orson Scott Card admitted, and I don't know why he included it. I think Rudnicki included Orson Scott Card for a little bit of diversity, but Orson Scott Card did not like the original movie, and he did not like the remake of the 1979-76 remake either. He said he couldn't finish watching any of those movies and had absolutely no interest in King Kong whatsoever. Okay, he's an outlier. They interviewed, then they did Ray Bradbury. And Ray Bradbury, of course, is one of the grandmasters of science fiction. And he, of course, loved King Kong. So my suggestion to everyone out there is go ahead and pick up this novelization. I really think you will be disappointed. I have finished reading Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, originally published in 1963. It was his fourth novel. It is narrated by a man who wants to be called Jonah, the only name he ever gives, and his name is only ever given in that first paragraph. And he is writing about the end of the world and how the world can end, and he wants to interview people who built the atomic bomb. And in this fictionalized view, there's a family called the Honeckers, and the Papa Honecker worked on the atomic bomb, and he originally had 3 children. One of them was Newt Honecker, who was a dwarf, and he had an elder son and a daughter. And after the atomic bomb, the army went to Papa Honecker, and said, Marines have a problem with mud. If a field is muddy, Marines can't properly advance in their tanks or their vehicles or carry their backpacks. Wouldn't it be really great if there were some device that you could throw on a field of mud and the mud would become solid? So Honecker invents this thing called Ice 9, because there are apparently 9 types of water. And Ice 9 is unique to what Honecker created. It is frozen water, but whatever water that is not frozen that touches this frozen Ice 9 will itself freeze until it reaches the end of water. Now, if you were to throw Ice 9 into a stream, that stream would completely freeze upstream and downstream. If that stream just happened to flow into the ocean would freeze. And every piece of water connected to that ocean would freeze. So Ice 9 is a doomsday device, essentially. And you can sort of fit it in with nuclear weapons, that you have people with their Ice 9 containers, and you got to be careful that you don't use your Ice 9. Now, in this book, besides Ice 9, is Bakonism. Bakonism is the artificial religion made by a man named Bakonin. He has an original name, but I don't remember what that is right now. But he created a religion when he came to this small Caribbean nation called San Lorenzo, the very small, very poor nation. So he created his own religion. And to help that religion survive, he made it illegal to practice Bakonism. Because, religions thrive better when they're oppressed. And if you are a member of the Bakonin religion in San Lorenzo, you get the death penalty. You get the hook. The hook is basically a hook on a chain dangled above the ground, and you get that hook in your belly until you die. But it's the most hilarious and wonderful religion you could ever imagine, because you're divided up into karasses or wampaters. You get nice little phrases like busy, busy, busy. And you're going to have to read this book to truly understand how those terms fit in. But everyone on San Lorenzo is a Bakonist, even though they know it's the death penalty to be a Bakonist, because it's just such a great religion. And I have to admit, if I had to join a religion, I might join Bakonism, even though all the holy verses are sung as calypso songs. And this also is a banned book. I am pretty sure it is banned because it treats religion rather lightheartedly and says all religions are false, even Bakonism. And that was from their guru, the man who wrote it, who says all religions are false. So I love this book. It is probably my second favorite Kurt Vonnegut book, behind Slaughterhouse-5 and just a little bit above Mother Night. I will be reading Slaughterhouse-5 later on this year, so we shall see if Slaughterhouse-5 keeps up with The Cat's Cradle, because I just really enjoyed reading this book. He's absolutely hilarious. I have lots of tabs in here about phrases that I just kind of like in this book. And I'll just quote a couple. All of the true things I'm about to tell you are shameless lies. FOMA. FOMA is a harmless untruth, according to Bakonism. And the Bakonism is written down in a number of books. And I'm going to read you the shortest chapter in the books of Bakonism, the 14th book. The chapter is entitled, "What Can a Thoughtful Man Hope for Mankind on Earth, Given the Experience of the Past Million Years?" The one word of that chapter: nothing. And here is one of his little calypso songs. I will not try to sing this. Someday, this crazy world will have to end, and our God will take things back that he to us did lend. And if on that said day you want to scold our God, why, go right ahead and scold him. He'll just smile and nod. Cat's Cradle, Kurt Vonnegut. Absolutely a magnificent book. I am plugging along with Les Miserables. I am reading this with two groups, Classics and Company, with Anna Novella, Micah Cummings and Elizabeth at Bookins and Books. They have a Discord channel. If you want to join, you can look up one of their channels and find the Discord. It is also a Voxer group with Aaron Facer and a lot of other people. I'm on page 432. I am really enjoying this. There are some rough patches in here. There is a very long chapter on Waterloo where Hugo is talking about his theories of why the Battle of Waterloo was won and lost and what it means. Some people find that chapter very dry because basically history pivoted on some very small events in the Battle of Waterloo. There was a heavy rainstorm the day before, and the field was muddy. Einstein, oh, pardon me. And Napoleon had to delay his artillery marching across the field. There was also a time when Napoleon questioned a peasant about what was up ahead. And he basically asked, are there any enemies up ahead? And the peasant nodded his head, no. But there was an army in a sunken road. And the Napoleon had a great disaster at this sunken road. So we're also getting more story of Cosette, the little daughter of Fontaine, and how Jean Valjean is taking charge of Cosette. Getting really good. I'm loving it, except for some of those, the Waterloo scene was a little dull. Okay, that's a wrap for this week. Onward to next week, where I already have a few books picked out that I have to read. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.